Hey guys, today's podcast, we're so excited to be answering questions from you guys, our listeners. And I'm so excited to be introducing Emily Metzgar with Metzgar Media. And I'm really happy to have her with our team. So I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hi, y'all. I'm Rhonda from RK3 Designs, and I am so excited to welcome you guys to the Pro Artisan Podcast. This is a space for artisan professionals to discuss matters of both business and the heart. I guess you joined our team a few weeks ago and
officially,
months ago. Yeah. And so she's really helped me keep my ducks in a row. So I'm super excited that she's part of the podcast. So she has compiled a list of questions from our community through YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and through our classes. Also, you attended our last class and just kind of took some feedback, which was really cool. So that's what this podcast is going to be about. We're going to take your questions and see if we can answer them. All right. So say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Okay. Well, then.
Speaker for the people here.
That's it. So lay it on me. What do we want?
There's lots of interesting questions. One that's very interesting to me is what the longest or largest project you've ever had to do is, and if you would ever do it again.
Okay, so and largest as in
I'm assuming number
of square feet at one time.
We can go with that.
I've done two. I've done two really large projects. One was just one countertop was almost 80 square feet, and that didn't include the rest of the countertops in the kitchen. That was just one piece of the puzzle. Wow. And that was large, and that one piece I was able to manipulate that piece over a 2-hour period. Kenny and I worked on it, and I would definitely do that one again. It was so much fun.
Oh
yes, and it turned out amazing. It was the kind of a version of the fantasy marble.
Oh, okay.
And I kind of added some different colors and a little bit added to the technique, but it turned out so incredibly pretty. And I was really worried when I started it because it was so big. I thought, how am I going to make this look like it was very cohesive in one piece? And so what we did was Kenny mixed up my product for me, and because he mixed it up each time, he knew exactly how much of each product he put in there. So I didn't want to mix up the first batch and then him mix up the second batch.
Yeah.
And it ended up taking, I believe, 4 different pours. I didn't want to mix up a huge amount at one time. So he mixed them up. So that every batch would be very cohesive. Yeah. And then I came in behind him and did the color work. So when kind of a pro tip on that is if you are doing a really large pour, you want to have lanes that each person stays in. Kenny stayed in his lane by doing the mixing. I stayed in my lane by doing the actual technique of putting the color down. Now we both chopped and we both trialed. Those are pretty, interchangeable.
Right.
But what we did is he poured my first piece or my first section of the board, and we chopped and we trialed it out. Trialed and chopped, I guess you would say. And then I started on the actual finished piece, the actual technique. While I was doing that, he was mixing up another batch. So by the time I got to the point where I was ready to move to the next section, he had that poured, already chopped, and was ready to go. And then we chopped the 2 pieces together, and you couldn't see where one overlapped the other. It was very seamless. Wow. And so I was very pleased how that came out. And so it's super important that if you're going to do a piece that big, that you do have somebody help you do that.
Yeah.
So.
Yes,
and I would definitely do it again.
And you would do it again. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, the biggest job pour I did a piece that was the whole kitchen and 3 bathrooms. And that was big because it was the same finish
for all the pieces
throughout the whole house.
Wow.
They wanted the same finish. And so that's where it's super, super important to practice on a finish until you know that you can recreate that finish over and over again. And I don't mean it's going to look exactly the same.
Right. But the overall appearance, you stack them side by side.
Yep. And it looked like it was all from the same piece of stone. And even in nature, if you buy that much granite,
they'll still all have their own differences.
Absolutely. It's all going to have its own characteristic.
Yeah.
But as a whole, you can tell
the colors will be the same.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's my take on that is just make sure that you can recreate something before you commit to your customer. Say, sure, I can do that. So, but both of those jobs, 100% I would do them again. Absolutely. They paid good too.
Yeah. I bet. Awesome. Well, kind of along those lines, obviously that particular job, it worked out really well. Is there ever a time where you have trouble kind of bringing a client's vision to life? And if so, what do you do?
Yes. I haven't had as much problem in the epoxy industry as I did when I was a faux finisher.
Okay. I guess it was harder to show samples of things before.
And I kind of developed my own style. I was very rustic, very old world type finishes, which was my niche.
Right.
And I had a customer come to me and wanted something that was very retro. And that was tough for me because I had never really done a retro finish. So just like in the epoxy, when I have someone come to me and they have a vision, and I'm not, say I've never done that type of finish with those colors or something, what I'll tell them to do is I'm a visual person, very visual. If I see it, I can recreate it. So I will tell them, go on Pinterest, get me some inspiration photos.
If you have a picture to work off of, that makes the difference.
Absolutely. And also, if you have something in your house that has those colors, I did a whole kitchen around a lady's pillow that she had on her couch.
Wow.
And she was very adamant that she wanted this look, and it was more of a kind of a natural stone, but she wanted these colors in there. And I said, okay, can I do that? Well, heck, I always say yes. Then I go home and bang myself on the head like, what the hell was I thinking? But it came out. It came out perfectly. Yeah. She was overjoyed. So I do struggle with that sometimes. But going back to the retro piece, what I did is I went online and I actually researched that era of furniture. Yeah. And I saw, okay, this was very prevalent. These colors were very prevalent in that era.
Yeah.
So if someone has you do something that, they really want to go back to a certain point of time, then go research it. Go look on the internet and see what was really popular back then.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's continue on kind of with let's take that creativity topic and roll into what do you do if you're not feeling creative and you have to go into the shop because you've got a job to do or just
life?
Yeah.
Makes you uncreative at some point. Lack of sleep can make you not want to be so creative. I've dealt with that a lot, especially as my business has really grown and I've had to stretch myself in so many areas that I'm uncomfortable with that I don't know, maybe that's paperwork I have to get done or something, I'm like, or I have something happen in my personal life that now is commanding so much of my attention that going in and now having to turn all of that off in my brain and come in and be creative, that is so hard to do. And honestly, sometimes you just have to reset. You have to give yourself a little bit of time. Turn off the TV. Turn off everything. Maybe put some music on. Maybe go read. Maybe read a scripture or maybe read a quote.
Yeah.
something that motivates you, something that can reset you. I am a spiritual person, and sometimes I just close my eyes real quick and I say a quick prayer and I'm like, okay, clear my mind.
Yeah.
And, and sometimes coming in and doing a job doesn't necessarily mean I have to be on my game creative, because if I've done my homework, I know what that customer is expecting.
You have a plan because you've already done sample boards and talked to a client. You know their vision. You know what's expected. Yeah.
So hopefully I've done enough of my homework that when I actually come in to do the piece, I can kind of do it muscle memory. Yeah. If that even makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah.
And so
it's almost coming second nature because you've done enough of the components that it just the puzzle fits.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say, though, that I have times, and I'll always go back to this one example. I was doing a bunch of tables for a winery, and I had all the tables ready to be poured in the studio. And I started off, and that one table, my first table, took me forever. And I was so frustrated, and I could not get anything. Nothing was easy. Everything was like, oh. And
then you're thinking about the next tables you have to do, and it's just the whole thing's bringing you down.
It was. And so, my husband said, Rhonda, just take a break.
Yeah.
And so I did. I did one table, and I was like, I'm done. The next day, I reset myself. I had a good breakfast. I had my mind on right. I came in here by myself. Kenny wasn't here. Nobody was here. I turned on the music. I did all of the 8 tables remaining, I believe, in the time that it took me to do that one table.
Wow.
My mojo was
You just
on.
needed a reset.
Exactly. Yeah. So don't force it is probably my biggest takeaway from that was you can't force creativity like you can force balancing a checkbook or something. It truly is.
You have to realize it's okay to walk away for a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Creativity that's a gift.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a gift, and it's something that you have to allow it to talk to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So. And just realizing that just because it's a gift doesn't mean that you're going to be on 100% all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, yeah.
Is there any finish or technique or anything that you don't like to do?
I don't.
And I feel like there might be some when you're not feeling the creativity and having a bad day. It's like, that's my least favorite. But is there one like if a client comes to you and says, I want this, you'll say no?
I very seldom say no. I really do. I say no a whole lot more than I used to.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
I don't like doing soapstone. To me, it's boring.
Yeah.
It's just gray and a little bit of white, and it just doesn't have that creativity factor.
Yeah.
I don't find a lot of people ask me for that because it's just a finish that, you just don't see a lot.
Yeah.
But really besides that, I don't actually have a technique or a finish I absolutely don't like. No.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But soapstone would probably be my least favorite because it's the least amount of creativity and the least amount of colors. Yeah. So, yeah.
Grays and whites.
Yeah. But I'd still do it if, if the money was right.
Yeah. Right.
So,
is there an assumption about epoxy that people make when you talk to them about epoxy that is a pet peeve of yours that, you mention epoxy and they are like, oh, well, but what about this?
Right. Yes. Several, actually. I don't like for people to assume that epoxy is 100% fail-proof or
indestructible.
There is no product out there.
Yeah.
And if anybody says this one product is, the mother of all finishes, I would challenge them to a debate on that.
Yeah.
Natural stone has its pros and cons. Quartzite has its pros and cons. Epoxy definitely has its pros and cons. Laminate has its pros and cons.
Yeah.
And so my job as a professional in the epoxy industry is to sit down with my customer and say, what are your expectations? If they're doing, let's say, rental houses, I know that they're not going to go put, high-end granite into a rental house.
Right.
But they may want something that's a little nicer than laminate.
Yeah.
That's
a little more durable.
Repairable.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really repair laminate.
Right.
Without repairing maybe the whole, countertop.
Right.
So it's my job to ask these questions. To me, what I do love about epoxy is that it gives the person that wants a step above laminate, it gives them that option. It gives them the option to be creative and customize colors, because it's endless, the colors that you can do, the finishes that you can do. I can make something look like natural stone for a fraction for a fraction of the cost of natural stone. Now, if somebody comes to me and they are dead set on high-end granite or high-end marble, I'm not going to talk them out of that finish. That's what that product. That's what they want. I'm not going to convince them to go with epoxy. Now there are significant pros to going with epoxy over stone. One, if you have a beautiful stone in your home and you crack it, you're going to replace that whole piece.
Yeah.
And a lot of times
you can't replace it with an exact replica either. So if you're attached to that piece of stone, you're out of luck.
Yeah. And you're going to replace that whole kitchen.
Yeah.
Also, over time, natural stone will amber, whether or not, everything in nature is going to amber over time. Mm-hmm. So now if I have to replace one piece of that whole kitchen, it's going to be a different, even if they offer the same stone, it's going to be different. With epoxy, it's not going to crack, and if it is showing wear over a few years, surface scratches or whatever, I can go in there, I can rebuff it. I can re-pour a flood coat, make it look like the day that I poured it on initially the first day.
Yeah.
So those are definitely, things that are advantageous to the epoxy. Mm-hmm. The fact that it's very heat resistant. And I'm talking about the epoxy that I use, which is Stone Coat countertops. There are so many epoxies out there. I like the fact that I can change it. Yeah. Say in 5 years you don't like it, or you want to change, you're going to change your whole decor in your house. You're not going to drop $20,000 or $30,000 on new granite. I can come in there, I can just sand it, repaint it, re-pour it, and boom, you have a brand new countertop. Yeah. So that right there is huge, especially for rental properties, flip homes, things like that. So there's so many things that that are very good about epoxy. And I guess to go back to the original question, my pet peeve is for it to be a blanket statement that epoxy is never scratches. Well, it will scratch. So will natural stone. Yeah. And
concrete isn't indestructible.
Exactly.
I mean, there's
so you
nothing,
have to set
if there's an everyday use of something, there's going to be wear and tear at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you just have to set that expectation up. Yeah. And you have to educate your consumer. Right. That's where it is.
You made a good point that there are lots of different epoxy brands and you chose the one that you did for a reason. And just if you could talk for a little bit about the research that people should do when picking one, because you have picked the one you did for several reasons. Yeah. And that it's important to point out that not all are the same.
Exactly. So yeah. And a lot of people that follow my YouTube channel, they'll ask me questions. Well, how come I got this, or what happened here? And a lot of times I'll ask them, well, what product are you using? And if they're using a product that maybe doesn't work with my technique, maybe torching. There are epoxies out there that have additives in it so that you don't have to torch. But what are you giving up for that? Because now you have a product that's maybe not zero VOCs. And that's one major reason I chose the product that I use, which is Stone Coat Countertop, because I work inside of a closed area. And it is very important to me not to be breathing those harmful fumes. And so I use a product that is 0 VOCs, and I do torch very little. The product you really barely have to torch it at all to get the bubbles out. I'm able to use a drill to
The
mix
electric
it.
drill, yes.
Yeah, and that really saves on time.
Yes.
My arm. But there are products out there that you cannot use an electric drill, that you have to hand mix for 3, 4, 5 minutes, and screw that.
I'd rather have my arms.
Thank you. So, but yeah, there are several reasons. In my opinion, and I've used a lot of epoxies out there, Stone Coat countertop has the highest UV protection on the market. Its strength, its scratch resistance is bar none. And I do, and our open time is amazing. I mean, I've used an epoxy that, I had like 10 minutes worth of open time, and it was starting to gel, and I was like, I can't do this. So the open time, the scratch resistance, the heat resistance, all of this, plus the culture of the business themselves, the company itself
that definitely
is
plays a part.
Amazing. The leadership there, the customer service,
the support they give you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm very big on that. And honestly, Mike and his wife, Catherine, are amazing people. They've helped me get where I'm at, and they're 100% supportive. I'll call them on the phone, and I may be either having a bad day, or I've had something happen that I thought, oh, what do I do? And for them to be able to mentor me the way that they do means a lot to me. So
it's great to not only find the product that's perfect for what you need, but that it also is attached to a business that you feel 100% comfortable supporting.
Absolutely.
And that's not always easy to find.
No.
Yeah.
You are so right.
I know. So we talked a little bit about the your pet peeve of assumptions that people make about epoxy. Is there anything about epoxy that you don't like?
I would love for the cure time to be 5 minutes.
Not 30 days.
Not 30 days. And when I say that, let me clarify that 30-day cure time. All materials at some point, paint on your wall, paint on your cabinets, paint in a painting, all of that
everything has
a cure time. And it doesn't necessarily, cure time doesn't necessarily mean user time. I can use this product in 7 days, lightly. I can set a coffee cup, or I can set a plate, or I can set
It's just
something.
the full strength of the product is not reached until
30 days. Exactly. So don't go put a heavy convection oven on top of your countertop, before 30 days. Don't take something that's heavy and slide it across your surface at day 5,
And that pet peeve is more when it comes to like the business side of having to work with the consumers and a client project. I'm assuming that's more where that pet peeve comes into play.
Even DIYers, most DIYers will want to pour on site in their home. I don't do that necessarily anymore. We actually construct the countertops and then install them.
Transport them,
And so a lot of the new people will think, well, am I going to lose my kitchen for 30 days? No, not necessarily for 30 days. You're going to lose it for 3 or 4 days. For sure. But in the perfect world, I would love to be able to tell people that your full cure time, your fullest strength is going to be reached at day 3. That would be amazing. But I'm sure the technology is going to be out there, and I'm sure one day that that's going to come to light, and at that point, then the world will all be perfect in the epoxy world. So, but yeah, that's probably my, I guess, my pet peeve if I'd had to have one. And it's so
an
sticky.
Understandable one. Yeah.
I would love for it not to be quite so sticky. But.
Well, I think this was a great start to tackling some of these questions. We have to have a cutoff point at some point.
Absolutely.
And just
we could go
have
for
more.
hours.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Pages and pages. But before we stop, can you talk a little bit about Artisan Summit coming up?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. This will be the 2nd annual Artisan Summit, and it people ask me, well, is it just if I pour, what if I don't do epoxy? That's okay. This summit obviously is geared towards those who work with epoxy, but it's really for anybody that has a God-given talent, painting, wood carving, any of that. And you want to take that talent and you want to monetize it somehow. You want to make a living doing it, or a side hustle or something.
An artisan entrepreneur.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I'm telling you what, just from last year, hearing what Mike's going to do this year, the people that he's bringing in additionally to the ones he had last year, I'm telling you what, for that $100 ticket, it is insane.
Deal of a deal. It's a great lineup.
It is. He's going to have, after the first night, I believe, he's going to have a huge tent set up in the back on the parking lot of the West Gate. And we're going to be doing live demos, Q&As. He's going to have a party for everyone, food, everything. So it is going to be absolutely incredible. You're going to get to meet some people and rub elbows and ask questions.
It's not limited to just the speaking engagements.
No.
There's so much more than that.
There's so much more than just the actual summit, the 2 days of people speaking. But just that right there is going to be incredible. Sean Cannell, the Burl Hunter's going to be there. I'm speaking again, and I'm dragging my husband on.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, he was like, what? I have to speak? I'm like, yep.
Yes, Kenny.
But it's just... Artist Till Death, Erica and Jeff. Oh my gosh, they're amazing people. Marcy from Mixed Media Girl,
yes,
is going to be
she's
there.
awesome.
Her husband, her husband is going to play for us during the live demos. He is an unbelievable musician, so he's going to be there.
That's
so
exciting.
So check out.
They even get their own little concert.
Exactly. Yes, and
that's exciting.
So. Check out my website. We'll have a link on it.
Yes.
RK3designs.com. And also you can check out Stone Coat Countertop. They all have a link on their website.
Yes. And then on your YouTube channel, people can see the video from last year.
Yes.
And I have seen that video. I can't even tell you how many times. And every time I get goosebumps and or cry. It's just, it's amazing.
All of the speakers just have something to bring to the table. They all bring their story, whether it be super motivational, super detail oriented. Catherine Quist, her speech last year just hit me in the heart like a dagger. It was she was talking to me, and it made such an impact on my life. So yes, you will walk away from the summit with lifelong friends. So yeah, and I highly recommend it. Okay, guys, I hope you like this podcast. Leave us some comments, leave us some feedback, maybe questions, topics that you would like us to talk about, personal and business, either one. And you can contact me through RK3designs.com. My email is on the website, and feel free to drop me a line.